Yesterday, President Obama blasting critics of the nuclear agreement with Iran, saying opponents are playing, quote, fast and loose with the details, and he has yet to hear a good argument against the deal.
I have not yet heard a factual argument on the other side that holds up to scrutiny. There's a reason why 99% of the world thinks this is a good deal. It's because it's a good deal.
99% of the world. I want to bring in former Governor Tom Ridge, the very first Secretary of Homeland Security. Governor, good to have you on the program today. Welcome.
Really nice to join you. I guess I'm in the 1%, the wrong 1%, but I guess I'm in the 1%.
I guess you are, because you don't think this is a good deal at all.
You know, Maria, it is such a flawed agreement. There's so many things we could talk about, but you don't have enough time on this show. But just a couple of things, if I might. This inspection period is a false promise of 24 days. If you actually look at the language, it takes actually months and months, potentially 6, 8, 9 months. There's so many hoops and hurdles that you have to go through in order to get to the inspection site. And preliminarily, the military sites are off limits, number one. Number two, this whole notion of snapback provisions that we can suddenly put the sanctions on if they violate the agreement with impunity, that's illusional. That's an illusion. It's not going to happen. The UN is going to withdraw the sanctions. The countries that have been involved in the negotiations are going to go back in. Huge investment. The president cannot put on a charm offensive to get the sanctions imposed. And then thirdly, and there's so many other concerns that people ought to have, but Iran has been, for the past decade or two, the central bank of terrorism in that region. Yeah. And we're going to thaw $150 billion worth of assets. Those monies are going to go to Hamas and Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, the rebels in Yemen, and probably build up their significant cyber security team, their cyber warfare team. So at the end of the day, I think you'll see an escalation of a nuclear arms race in the most unstable region in the world, and this agreement continues to contribute to that instability. And I think the chant on the streets after the agreement is signed will be "Death to America" after we cash the check.
Well, I mean, this weekend, I guess it was the supreme leader of Iran, Khomeini, who tweeted out a picture of President Obama with a gun to his head. So they're basically taunting us now. You mentioned a whole list of things of why the deal's not good, and you worried about cyber war. I want to ask you more about that. The other thing is that we caved in the 11th hour on the arms embargo being lifted. Can Congress stop this deal, Governor? Can this deal be reversed? I mean, the president is adamant. He says he's going to veto any challenge to the deal.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Maria, to have spent several years negotiating with a group of terrorists and then diss the Congress of the United States arbitrarily from the get-go, saying my way or the highway. It's a similar approach they did to Obamacare, and we know how that worked out. This is predicated on our willing to trust the ability of our Secretary of State and our President to negotiate a deal with a country that is probably the best negotiators on the face of this earth. And we are parties to a very bad deal. And at the end of the day, when you see people like Assad in Syria, Putin in Russia, and all the terrorist leaders applauding the deal, you say to yourself, I didn't know we were supposed to give aid and comfort to our enemies. And we've done that. It's a bad, flawed deal.
Governor, you had said long ago that, this is Sandra Smith, by the way, that the president was just overly anxious on getting this deal done. Rather than walking away from a bad deal, he just went in there to get something done. You've said that the world is upside down now because of this deal, and that we're living in a much more dangerous place with this cyber arms, $150 billion freed up. Your opinion piece on the FoxNews.com was very strong about all of this. What would you have done differently? Would you have gotten a deal done with Iran if you had been at the negotiation table?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue, because a lot of these, significant amount of these dollars are going to end up in upgrading their cyber capability. Look, we've got many people trying to hack into our systems, many of them very successful. We know it's Russia, we know it's China, but we can't underestimate the capabilities that the Iranians have, and we've just given them billions of dollars to upgrade those capabilities. No, I think at the end of the day, there's also a false dichotomy, this binary notion that we either do this deal or we go to war. That's not true. We could have certainly negotiated a better better deal. People forget that Ronald Reagan walked away from Gorbachev in Reykjavik because he didn't like the deal. He didn't like what was on the table, and gave it a little more time, and actually then completed a rather successful negotiation within the Soviet Union. We're stuck with a binary proposition right now because the president has agreed to it, and I think it's very unlikely that we're going to get the 13 votes, hopefully we can, to override the president's veto. And again, you go back to his whole mindset about this. Trust me, Kerry and I have negotiated a very good deal. And by the way, I'm not interested in talking to Congress, although I was very interested in cutting a deal with the mullahs.
Yeah. You know, I want to show you this art posters appearing in West Los Angeles ahead of a rally on Sunday against the new Iran nuclear deal. These are posters by a conservative guerrilla artist named Sabo. They're targeting this new Iran deal. This is a poster showing a picture of Donald Trump with "You're fired." Let's show some more of this art because this is appearing at bus stations in western Los Angeles. It's interesting to see so much of this art being displayed because it's sort of the people speaking. What are your thoughts about that, Governor? And I guess the focus is on, in New York, is on Schumer. What do you think Senator Schumer is going to say about this deal? Can he change the outcome?
Well, I think I've had the pleasure of serving with Senator Schumer on the banking committee for 12 years when I was on in Congress, and he's a listen. We all know he's very bright, very agile, very capable guy, and I think, frankly, this is one of the most difficult decisions he's ever going to have to confront. He has been historically, and for all the right reasons, a strong ally and proponent of safety and security in the state of Israel. And I would like to think that at the end of the day, even though he looks to become the next majority leader in the Senate, how this undermines his historic pledge, his historic embrace of the notion of security and safety for the state of Israel would lead him to vote against it. But I think he's a critical vote in this case, and I'm not going to project how a former colleague will vote. All I know, it's a very difficult personal decision for him as well as a political one. So I also think he knows that he's at the epicenter of the ability of Congress to turn this thing around. I do believe that if Senator Schumer would say, no, it is a bad deal, it is a flawed deal, too many false promises, too much hope rather than real planning in here to protect America. It's the audacity of hope. And if he finally agrees to that notion and decides he's going to vote against it, I think that will turn this around.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching that. That's an important vote, clearly. Governor, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time this morning.
Very good talking with you. Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon. Governor Tom Ridge joining us there. First